Do you want to help a stray animal? Just subscribe, like, comment and watch until the end, and you'll be helping save a precious life. Every action makes a real difference.
My dearest Elaine, I never left your side that day. Even as my body grew still in your arms, I watched you cry into my fur for hours, refusing to let go. I wish you could have known that I stayed with you, still watching, still loving you just the same. I've been trying to find a way to tell you everything for so long. Maybe that's why I'm here now, in this quiet space between memory and dream, writing the letter I never could. There's so much I need you to understand about what we were to each other. Do you remember that rainy October afternoon when we first met? I do. The shelter was overcrowded, and I was already 11 years old, ancient by adoption standards. I'd been there 4 months after my previous owner passed away, and I'd stopped coming to the front of my cage when visitors walked by. The younger cats always got chosen first. I had settled into the routine of being overlooked, curled in the back corner on my faded blue blanket. But then you appeared, standing alone in that fluorescent-lit hallway. You weren't even looking for a cat. You told the volunteer you were just dropping off donations, old towels and blankets from your late sister's house. I remember how your voice cracked when you mentioned her name. Nancy, your only sister, gone just 3 weeks earlier. Our eyes met through the metal bars, and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe. You had the same heaviness around you that I felt inside. The volunteer noticed you lingering at my cage and offered to let you hold me. "This is Oliver," she said. "He's been here a while. Quiet fellow, doesn't make much fuss." You hesitated, but then your hands reached in, tentative at first. I didn't resist. When you cradled me against your cardigan, the green one with wooden buttons you always said was too old to wear anywhere but home, I felt your heart beating hard and fast against my side. "He's quite heavy," you said, and the volunteer laughed. 16 pounds. Previous owner spoiled him rotten with treats. You scratched beneath my chin, finding that perfect spot immediately, as if you'd known me forever. "My sister would have loved him," you whispered, more to yourself than anyone else. What you never knew was that I recognized your scent. Not consciously, perhaps, but somewhere deep in my animal memory. It reminded me of garden soil and Earl Grey tea and those lavender sachets older women tuck into drawers. It reminded me of safety. I didn't purr or make a show of affection. Neither of us were the demonstrative type. But when you made to put me back, I placed one paw against your wrist, just a gentle pressure. Nothing dramatic. That was all it took. "The adoption fee is waived for senior cats," the volunteer mentioned. That wasn't what convinced you, though. It was the silence we shared. The volunteer kept talking about my medical history, my diet, my litter box habits. But you and I were already having our own quiet conversation. You signed the papers with that beautiful cursive handwriting you were so proud of learning in the 3rd grade. Mrs. Elaine Caraway, 1487 Sycamore Lane, Millfield, Ohio. And just like that, I had a person again, and you weren't alone anymore. The drive home was silent, except for the classical music playing softly on your car radio. You apologized to me 3 different times about the state of the house. "I haven't felt much like cleaning since Nancy passed," you explained, as if I would judge you for dust on the bookshelves or dishes in the sink. When we arrived at your little blue Cape Cod with the peeling white trim, you carried me inside with surprising strength for a woman of 72. You set me down in the living room, among the faded floral furniture and framed cross-stitch samplers, and watched me from the doorway as I cautiously explored my new territory. "The bathroom is down the hall if you need some privacy," you said, then laughed at yourself. "Listen to me, talking to you like you're a house guest." But that's exactly how you treated me those first few weeks, like a visitor you weren't quite sure what to do with. You put my food bowl in the kitchen, but didn't want me on the counters. You bought me a plush bed, but hesitated to let me on the furniture. You'd watch me with curious eyes as I found the sunny spots on the carpet, as if studying a creature from another world. It wasn't until that first thunderstorm 3 weeks later that everything changed. The rain came suddenly in the middle of the night, pounding against the roof and windows, lightning flashing bright enough to illuminate the whole house. I was frightened. I'd always hated storms, and found myself outside your bedroom door, meowing softly. You opened the door in your faded flannel nightgown, hair in a loose braid over one shoulder. "Oliver," you whispered. Thunder cracked overhead, and I darted between your legs under the bed. I heard you sigh, then the creak of bed springs as you knelt down. "It's all right," you coaxed. "I don't much care for storms either." After a few minutes, I crept out. You were sitting on the edge of the bed, looking small and fragile in the dim light. Without thinking, I jumped up beside you, then onto your lap. You stiffened for just a moment, then your hand came to rest on my back. "Nancy was afraid of storms too," you said quietly. "Ever since we were little girls sharing a room. She'd climb into my bed during bad ones, right up until she got married and moved out." I settled deeper into your lap as you spoke, your voice a soothing counterpoint to the storm outside. You told me about your sister, how she always wore red on Christmas, how she could bake a perfect pie crust, how she snorted when she laughed too hard, how the cancer took her so quickly that you barely had time to process she was sick before she was gone. "I never even got to say goodbye properly," you whispered, your tears falling onto my fur. "She was in so much pain at the end that they kept her sedated. The last thing she said to me was to remember to water her African violets." We stayed like that for hours, the storm raging outside while you poured out your grief to a cat you barely knew. When you finally laid down, I curled against your side, and for the first time since we'd met, I purred. A rusty sound at first, like an old engine struggling to start, but growing stronger as you stroked my fur. "We're a pair, aren't we, Oliver?" you murmured, as you drifted off to sleep. Two old souls rattling around together. From that night on, we had a different understanding. The invisible barriers fell away. I was allowed on the furniture, in your bed, even on the kitchen counter occasionally, though you'd pretend not to notice that part. I became your confidant, your silent companion through long afternoons of crossword puzzles and murder mysteries, your audience as you hummed along to your old records. I wish you could have known how much I loved our routines, the way you'd shuffle to the kitchen each morning, in your slippers, filling my bowl before even starting your own coffee. How you'd narrate your day to me, as if I could respond. "What do you think, Oliver, the blue sweater or the green one for bridge club?" The gentle way you'd lift me from your lap when you needed to stand, always with a soft, "Excuse me," as if I were a person deserving courtesy. There was the Tuesday ritual of watching that baking show together, you with your single glass of sherry, me curled beside you on the sofa. You'd comment on the contestants' techniques, occasionally reaching over to stroke my ears during the tense judging moments. "That crust is clearly overdone," you'd say with authority, and I'd blink slowly in agreement. "Do you remember how I'd follow you into the garden? You worried about me escaping, but I never wandered far. I'd find a patch of sun near where you were weeding or pruning, occasionally batting at a fallen leaf or watching birds with mild interest. More than once, you caught me helping myself to the catnip you planted especially for me, and you'd laugh, that gentle laugh of yours. "Enjoying yourself, old boy?" you'd ask, as I rolled blissfully among the leaves. Those nights when you couldn't sleep, and there were many after Nancy died, I'd hear you pacing the hallway, and I'd trot out to meet you. We'd end up in the kitchen, you with a cup of chamomile tea, me with a small saucer of milk. Even though you said it wasn't good for cats, you indulged me occasionally. You'd talk about your worries in the darkness, bills that kept increasing while your pension stayed the same, the arthritis that made your hands ache in damp weather, your fear of becoming a burden to your nephew Michael, who lived 3 states away. "At least I have you," you'd whisper, scratching under my chin. "My confidential feline. I noticed things about you that no one else did. Like how you'd touch your wedding ring when you were anxious, even though Walter had been gone for 12 years. How you saved the comics section of the Sunday paper for last, a small treat to savor. The way you'd mutter to yourself while balancing your checkbook, each column neat and precise, despite your shaking hands. As the seasons changed, I watched you struggle more with the cold. Your joints grew stiffer, your breath sometimes short when you climbed the stairs. But you were stubborn, my Elaine. Just the weather, you'd insist to yourself. It'll pass. The Christmas after Nancy died was particularly hard. You put up the small artificial tree, but stopped halfway through decorating it, overwhelmed by ornaments made or gifted by your sister over the years. I found you sitting on the floor amid cardboard boxes, holding a hand-painted ceramic angel, tears streaming silently down your face. I climbed into your lap then, purring loudly, pressing my head against your chin. You clutched me so tightly I could barely breathe, but I didn't mind. "It's just us now, Oliver," you whispered. "Just us." You rallied, though. You always did. By spring, you were attending your bridge club again, having lunch with the ladies from your church. You started volunteering at the library one morning a week, shelving books and reading to children. Life went on as it must. I was getting older too, of course, moving more slowly, sleeping more deeply. My jump onto the bed became less graceful, sometimes requiring 2 attempts. You noticed, and without mentioning it, you placed an ottoman beside the bed as a stepping stone for me. That was your way, making accommodations without drawing attention to weakness. The day you found the lump under my jaw, everything changed again. I saw the fear flash across your face, felt your fingers tremble as they explored the small, hard mass beneath my fur. "It's probably nothing," you told me, your voice too bright, just a little swelling. But the next morning, we were at Dr. Peterson's office, me yowling indignantly from inside my carrier, while you apologized repeatedly to the receptionist for the noise. I hated the antiseptic smell, the fluorescent lights, the cold metal examination table. But most of all, I hated the look on Dr. Peterson's face when he felt the lump himself. "Lymphoma," he said gently after the tests came back. "It's quite advanced, Elaine." I watched your face crumple, then rebuild itself with determined dignity. "What are our options?" There was talk of treatments, medications, possible outcomes. You nodded, took notes in your perfect handwriting, asked sensible questions. But in the car afterward, you pulled into an empty church parking lot and wept with your forehead against the steering wheel, one hand reaching back to stroke me through the bars of the carrier. "Not you too," you kept saying. "I can't lose you too." The treatments made me sick at first, pills hidden in treats that I learned to detect and avoid, forcing you to crush them into my food instead. Weekly visits to Dr. Peterson that left both of us exhausted. But we settled into yet another routine, you and I, warriors in a quiet battle. You started sleeping on the sofa some nights, claiming it was better for your back, but I knew it was so you could be near my bed when I was too weak to climb the stairs. You'd read aloud from your mystery novels, as if I were following the plot, your voice a soothing constant when nothing else felt certain. "Oliver Wendell Holmes," you called me on those nights, expanding my name with teasing formality. "Distinguished gentleman of letters." Some days were better than others. On good days, I'd still follow you around the house, still purr when you found that perfect spot beneath my chin. On bad days, I'd hardly leave my bed, and you'd bring my food and water to me, sitting nearby just to keep me company. Through it all, you talked to me about your childhood in rural Ohio, about the teaching career you'd loved, about Walter and the life you'd built together, about your regrets, not traveling more, not having children, growing distant from Nancy in the years after Walter died. You poured all your stories into me, and I kept them safe. I think you knew, though, when things started to change for the worse. I couldn't hide how thin I was becoming, how little interest I had in food. Dr. Peterson's face grew grimmer with each visit. "We need to consider quality of life, Elaine," he said finally, and though you nodded, you couldn't bring yourself to make that decision yet. Instead, you made those last weeks a gentle celebration. You opened the windows so I could smell the spring air and hear the birds I used to watch so intently. You moved my bed to the sunniest spot in the living room. You took a photo of me with your old Polaroid camera and placed it next to the one of Walter on your bedside table. One evening, you carried me out to the porch swing and held me on your lap as the sun set, your fingers gently stroking my fur. You hummed old show tunes and told me stories about the neighborhood, which houses had changed hands, where new flowers were blooming, the family of rabbits living under Mrs. Greenwald's shed. "I wish you could have seen this place in the summer," you said softly. "The fireflies come out in the hundreds. Like stars you can almost touch." I tried to purr for you then, but couldn't find the strength. Instead, I gazed up at you, memorizing the soft lines of your face, the silver hair falling loose from its bun, the blue eyes that had looked at me with such love for 3 years and 7 months. The morning it happened, I think you knew it was time. You found me on the kitchen floor, unable to stand. Instead of panicking, you wrapped me in my favorite blanket, the one that smelled of both of us, and held me in the rocking chair by the window. You didn't call Dr. Peterson. You didn't rush around frantically. You just held me, rocking gently, telling me what a good cat I'd been. "The very best," you whispered, your tears falling onto my fur. "My Oliver." My friend, I tried to tell you everything with my eyes, how you'd saved me from a lonely end in that shelter cage, how you'd given me purpose and comfort in my final years, how I wished I could stay with you longer. I think you understood. You always did seem to know what I was thinking. As my breathing grew more labored, you began to sing softly, that old lullaby your mother used to sing to you. Your voice wavered but never stopped, not even when you felt me go still in your arms. Not even when you knew I was gone. You sat with me for hours afterward, unwilling to let go. When darkness fell, you finally called Michael, your voice surprisingly steady as you explained what had happened. He offered to drive up, to help you bury me in the garden, but you declined. "Oliver and I will manage one last thing together," you told him. The next morning, you wrapped me in my blanket and laid me to rest beneath the flowering dogwood tree, where patches of sunlight dance across the ground. You didn't have a proper marker, so you placed one of the smooth river stones you collected on your walks with Walter, painting my name in your perfect script with nail polish. I wish you could know that I lingered there with you, watching as you patted down the earth with your gardening trowel, as you placed a small bunch of catnip beside the stone. I wished you could hear me when you stood there so small and alone and said, "Well, Oliver, I suppose it's just me now. But here's what I need you to understand, my dearest Elaine. It's never just you. The love we share doesn't simply vanish. It stays in the creaking floorboard outside the kitchen that you still step over, thinking I'm sleeping there. It lives in the way you still look down before sitting in your armchair, checking for a cat who isn't physically there. It remains in the slight hesitation before you close the front door, as if waiting for someone to follow you inside. I know you still expect to hear my paws on the hardwood in the middle of the night. I know you reach out sometimes, half asleep expecting to touch warm fur. I know about the bowl you haven't been able to put away, still sitting in its place by the refrigerator. When you talk to yourself in the quiet house, telling the empty rooms about your day, or asking aloud what you should make for dinner, I hear you. When you absently reach to your side while watching television, fingers searching for ears to scratch, I feel it. When you apologize aloud for stepping on a floor that creaks, I understand. Here is the truth that matters. You were never just my owner, and I was never just your cat. We were companions navigating loss together, finding our way back to joy in small, ordinary moments. The purring warmth on your lap during thunderstorms, the quiet understanding in shared solitude, the simple comfort of not being alone. You gave an old cat a home when others would have walked past. You saw value in me when I was past my prime, when my best features were already fading. You treated each day we had together as a gift, not an obligation. How could I not love you completely? There are others who need that love now. Other senior cats with grey muzzles and cloudy eyes waiting in shelter cages. I'm not suggesting you replace me. We both know that's impossible. But your heart, that generous, patient heart that saved me, still has so much to give. Remember the black and white cat in the cage next to mine, the one with the crooked tail and one torn ear. His name was Jasper, and he's still there, 7 months later, still waiting for someone to see beyond his scars to the devoted companion beneath. I'm not telling you what to do. I would never presume. But I know how the house echoes now, how the silence feels different than the comfortable quiet we used to share. I know you stand sometimes at the shelter donation box outside the grocery store, your hand lingering on the cat food you no longer need to buy. Whatever you decide, please know this. You made my final years beautiful. You made my passing peaceful. You gave me dignity and patience and understanding when I needed them most. For an old cat who'd lost his person, you became everything, home and safety and love. I was just one chapter in your remarkable life, Elaine. There were many before me, and there can be more after. But what a perfect chapter we wrote together, wasn't it? Full of quiet mornings and gentle touches, small kindnesses and unspoken understanding. When you feel that familiar ache of missing me, try to remember that love doesn't disappear, it just changes form. Look for me in the sunbeam that warms the kitchen floor each morning, in the soft breeze that stirs the curtains on summer evenings, in the quiet moments when you feel inexplicably comforted, as if something unseen is purring beside you. I am there in the spaces between heartbeats, in the pause between thoughts. Not gone, just transformed, still loving you, still watching over you, still your Oliver always, with eternal gratitude and love, your distinguished gentleman of letters.